Welcome to the Deep Dive, the show where we slice through the noise to bring you the profound insights and surprising facts you need. Today, we're diving headfirst into something many of us think we know pretty well, cannabis. But what if this familiar plant has undergone a radical, almost silent transformation right under our noses, really, with some seismic consequences? That's our focus today. The dramatic revolution in cannabis potency and its incredibly significant, often unseen, implications. Our mission, like always, is to sift through a whole stack of sources, research papers, articles, expert notes to pull out the really important stuff. Think of it as your shortcut to understanding a landscape that's changing, well, incredibly fast. And hey, before we jump in, if you find this kind of deep dive valuable, you should definitely check out Mind Expansion Daily for more insightful information like this.
Precisely. And what we're seeing with this surge in THC levels, it's not just some fleeting market trend. It's a fundamental shift. It impacts our health, our society, even our basic understanding of the plant itself. It's a true paradigm shift in how cannabis interacts with our bodies and minds. It really demands a closer look.
Okay, so let's unpack this. This dramatic change in potency. It's fascinating when you look back, historically speaking, back in the 1960s, maybe the 70s, cannabis was, well, it was a very different plant. The average THC content, incredibly low, usually around, 1 to 3%. It was a much milder experience.
Absolutely very different.
Now, fast forward to today, the change is just staggering. By 2014, the average THC in flower had already jumped to about 12%. And if you walk into a dispensary now, you'll easily find flower ranging from 15%, 20%, even 25% THC, pretty commonly. But here's where it gets really mind-bending. Concentrates, oils, waxes, dabs. These can hit an astonishing 60%, 70%, even up to 90% THC.
90%, yeah.
We're not just talking about a stronger high here. We're talking about a fundamentally different kind of interaction with our body's endocannabinoid system. It's like our bodies are dealing with something they just weren't built to handle in such high doses.
Exactly. And this massive leap, it's not random. It wasn't an accident. This increase was engineered. It was meticulously planned, really, driven by a deliberate push for higher potency. You've got cultivators doing selective breeding, right? Picking plants with the highest THC, combine that with optimized growing conditions, fancy lighting, hydroponics, you name it, plus really precise harvesting.
Right, timing it perfectly.
Exactly. And it all adds up. Fundamentally, though, it comes down to consumer demand for stronger effects and, let's be honest, higher market prices for these super potent products. What's really interesting is how it works inside us. THC targets our endocannabinoid system. Think of it as the body's master regulator. It influences mood, appetite, pain, memory, all sorts of things. THC mimics a natural compound we make called anandamide. It binds to CB1 receptors, mostly in the brain. So it kind of hijacks this natural communication network. That's why you get the euphoria, the relaxation people seek.
Okay, so if this is essentially a different beast compared to old school cannabis, what does that mean for the average recreational user? What are the immediate effects or risks we're seeing? Because intense euphoria sounds good, but it sounds like there's a flip side.
There absolutely is. The acute effects can be pretty jarring for some people. We're talking intense paranoia, sometimes disorientation, definitely increased heart rate, confusion. And then there's greening out. Have you heard of that?
Vaguely, yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds unpleasant.
It really is. It's basically an acute overdose reaction. Intense nausea, dizziness, cold sweats, extreme anxiety. Your body's just screaming, whoa, too much. It's a far cry from a mellow vibe. I saw this quote from a 24-year-old Ethan Andrew. He describes switching from flower to dabbing, like going from beer to tequila.
Wow. Beer to tequila, that paints a picture.
It really does. It captures that sudden jump in intensity, something the body might just struggle to cope with.
Okay, that's the immediate stuff. But beyond greening out, what about the more serious, maybe longer-term mental health risks, especially with these high potencies being used regularly?
Yeah, the research here is getting clearer, and frankly, it's pretty concerning. There was a 2022 study linking high-potency cannabis use to a 5-fold increase in the risk of psychosis.
5-fold? That's significant.
It is, and emergency rooms are seeing it too. More reports of cannabis-induced psychotic episodes, delusions, hallucinations, and then there's cannabis use disorder, CUD, addiction, basically, which kind of challenges that old idea that cannabis isn't addictive, right?
Right, that persistent myth.
Yeah, that's really being questioned now. A UK study from 2015 had some sobering stats. About 9% of people who just try it, 17% of teen users, and a really shocking 25 to 50% of daily users are at risk of developing an addiction. And we now know withdrawal is real. Irritability, bad insomnia, anxiety, intense cravings. It's a physiological dependency for some.
And it's not just addiction or psychosis risks. You mentioned cognitive impacts, too.
Yes, regular use, especially of high THC stuff, can impair things like memory, attention, executive functions. Studies have even shown potential links to reduced IQ in people who use heavily, starting as adolescents, and general learning difficulties. That's particularly worrying when you think about young, developing brains.
Okay, so the recreational landscape is clearly shifting, with some serious potential downsides. Let's pivot a bit. What about medical users? People relying on cannabis not for a high, but for actual therapeutic relief. This potency revolution must create unique challenges for them, too.
Oh, absolutely critical challenges. The main issue is precise dosing. Medical users need consistent, reliable concentrations to manage chronic pain or inflammation or epilepsy or nausea from chemo. But the market variability is it's kind of shocking. A 2023 study in Colorado found 70% of samples had THC levels at least 15% lower than what the label claimed.
70%. Wow, so you might be getting way less medicine than you think, or maybe sometimes more.
Exactly. It makes consistent treatment incredibly difficult if you need, say, 10 milligrams of THC for relief, but the product only has 7 milligrams, or maybe it has 15 milligrams. Your treatment plan gets thrown off completely. It can mean inadequate relief or unexpected unwanted side effects. Patients are kind of flying blind, unable to really trust the product they depend on.
That level of inconsistency sounds incredibly stressful for someone managing a serious condition. And you mentioned before, it's not just about the THC level itself, is it? There's this idea of the entourage effect.
Yes, exactly. The entourage effect is super important here. It's the theory that other compounds in cannabis, other cannabinoids like CBD, and also terpenes, the aromatic molecules work together with THC. They can actually enhance THC's good effects, the therapeutic ones. And really importantly, they might buffer some of the negative side effects like anxiety or paranoia. So strains with a good balance of THC and CBD, plus a rich mix of terpenes, they might be much more effective and safer for medical use.
But that's the problem, isn't it? With the focus purely on maximizing THC.
That's the problem. So much modern breeding has pushed THC levels sky high, but often CBD levels are pushed down to almost zero. You lose that natural balance. You strip away those potentially helpful compounds, and that can actually make adverse effects worse for patients, especially those who are sensitive to THC's psychoactive side. It really shows a market that's prioritizing, recreational intensity over the nuanced needs of medical users.
Okay, so we've got the mental health side, the medical dosing challenges. Are there other broader, maybe physical health risks emerging from this high THC landscape that people should know about?
Yes, the research is definitely catching up and highlighting other concerns. For instance, a study projected for 2025 linked regular cannabis use, including edibles, to a pretty significant, like 42% reduction in vascular function.
Vascular function, so blood vessel health.
Exactly, which raises serious questions about cardiovascular risks down the line, even in younger, seemingly healthy users. Impacts on heart health. We're also seeing more cases of something called cannabis hyperemesis syndrome.
Hyperemesis sounds bad.
It is severe recurrent nausea and vomiting, often in long-term high-potency users. It can be really debilitating. And there are associations between heavy use and increased rates of depression, anxiety, even suicidal behaviors, especially in adolescents and young adults. It's complex, but the link seems to be there.
And you mentioned adolescents. It feels crucial to focus on these particularly vulnerable groups, doesn't it? Because the impact isn't the same for everyone. A teenager's brain is still under construction.
Absolutely critical. The adolescent brain, especially the prefrontal cortex, the bit for planning, decision-making, impulse control, is highly sensitive. THC can interfere with the crucial wiring process happening there. It can disrupt the hippocampus, which is key for memory. This could lead to lasting issues with memory, learning, and making sound judgments.
And what about other vulnerable groups?
Pregnant women are another major concern. There was this alarming finding that 70% of Denver dispensaries were recommending cannabis for morning sickness in the first trimester.
Despite the risks.
Despite studies showing that prenatal THC exposure can disrupt fetal brain development. It can lead to cognitive deficits later in the child's life, attention problems, issues with problem solving. And then there's the sheer increase in ER visits related to cannabis, including, really tragically, pediatric exposures to edibles. Colorado saw a big jump in accidental overdoses in young kids under 9, mistaking potent edibles for candy.
That's terrifying. So with all these impacts, mental health, medical use, physical risks, vulnerable groups, what's happening with regulation, you've got, 24 U.S. states with recreational cannabis now, 38 with medical. But the rules seem all over the place.
They really are. It's a patchwork. If you look internationally, Canada offers a different model. They have national rules, THC caps per serving, like 10 milligram, and per package, 1,000 milligrams, and standardized labeling. The idea is to create a safer, more predictable market.
Which sounds sensible.
Right. But in the U.S., there's no consistent federal oversight. Cannabis is still Schedule A federally, which, really hinders research and prevents national regulations. The recent move to reschedule it to Schedule 3, that could help research eventually. But many experts are saying we need action now. Things like potency caps and definitely clear, accurate labeling to protect people today.
Yeah, that accurate labeling point keeps coming up. That Colorado study finding 70% of products were mislabeled on THC potency. That's not just a small error. It means people have no idea what they're actually consuming. Even where states do have rules, like Colorado's THC symbol requirement, enforcement seems inconsistent.
Exactly. And labeling is only part of it. Public education is just as vital, maybe more so. So many users just aren't aware that today's cannabis is vastly stronger than what their parents or even they themselves might have used years ago. They're using a supercharged product with an outdated risk assessment. And often, dispensary staff. They don't have the training to properly advise on these potency risks. We really need comprehensive public health campaigns, like Canada has done, to inform people about safer use, the risks of high THC products, especially for young people and pregnant women. It's about giving people the knowledge to make informed choices.
Okay, so we've definitely highlighted a lot of the risks and challenges. It paints a pretty serious picture, but let's circle back slightly. High THC cannabis does have legitimate uses, right? For some medical patients, that high potency might be exactly what they need for severe symptoms where nothing else works.
Absolutely. For some people with severe chronic pain or terrible inflammation or managing chemo side effects, high THC products can offer relief that lower doses just don't touch. It can be life-changing for them. And, on the recreational side, let's acknowledge that many people do seek out and enjoy the intense experiences these products offer. That's why the market went this way.
So how do we balance that, the potential benefits, the user demand, versus these very real risks we've spent most of the time talking about?
It really comes down to responsible use. That's
Mhm.
key. Simple things. Start with a very low dose, especially if you're inexperienced. Maybe avoid concentrates altogether if you're new to it.
Okay.
And talk to knowledgeable dispensary staff if possible, or better yet, a medical professional. That can significantly mitigate risks.
And thinking about the product itself, not just the dose.
Right. Coming back to the entourage effect. Choosing strains that have a more balanced profile, not just sky-high THC, there's also some CBD. A good range of terpenes might offer a safer, potentially more beneficial experience. It's about appreciating the whole plant, not just chasing one number.
Hmm. It seems like the big takeaway here is that the cannabis landscape has fundamentally shifted. And for you, the listener, really understanding the actual potency and the associated risks of what's out there today is just crucial, whether you're using it recreationally or medically.
Absolutely. The science shows us this complex picture euphoria. Yes, therapeutic potential, yes, but also real potential for harm, especially at these high concentrations interacting with our endocannabinoid system. As legalization spreads, we urgently need robust regulation, truly accurate labeling, and widespread public education. That's essential for safe use and especially for protecting those most vulnerable.
This deep dive really underlines that potency surge as a double-edged sword. Powerful benefits, significant risks. This conversation shouldn't end here, though. We'd genuinely love to hear from you. Share your experiences with high THC products, the good, the bad, the unexpected. Let's get a conversation going about navigating this potent new era. And remember, for more fascinating deep dives like this one and to keep expanding your knowledge base, definitely visit Mind Expansion Daily. Please like and subscribe to Mind Expansion Daily if you enjoyed this discussion. And hey, if you agree or maybe disagree with our take on this whole potency revolution, leave a comment below. We want to hear your thoughts.